I'm just going to give you guys some ideas of ways to do these TDAs that make it a little bit easier. So don't forget that you can zoom in on these digital documents. You just use the magnifying glass if you need to, or you can pinch and zoom so that it's easier to see what you're typing. So we're going to start out by focusing on the main idea sentence, which of course is the first sentence. For this sentence, the two things that you really want to make sure that you use are tag, which is title, author, and genre, and include the question that you're supposed to answer in statement form. So for example, here, if I'm asking you how the title contributes to the meaning of the text, obviously you want to be focusing on that. You don't want to be actually putting the title into your main idea sentence, except as part of the tag, title. Author would just be if there's an author name, or if not, there's a group. And of course, the genre in this case is an article. It could also be a poem, it could be a short story. You have to pay attention to that when you're including your tag. So our tag is going to start out in the article, because we're doing a nonfiction article, put quote marks to go around the title, and we're going to just take spiny lobsters, blah, blah, blah. You can also copy paste if you are doing this digitally. If you are handwriting it, it gets a little trickier, obviously. But throw your quote marks around both sides, hit your by, and then make sure that you put your author name. In this case, this one is a group author, so we're just going to go ahead and put by Manga Bay, and then put a comma because that's the end of our tag. I'm going to take the question and I'm going to turn it into a sentence. The details in the text support the central idea. So that's what we're focusing on, is how do the details support the central idea of this particular text. And you just turn that into a statement. Now we're ready to go ahead and get started on our supporting sentences. If you're doing this digitally, throw some boxes in there. When working with nonfiction articles, in my opinion, it's always easiest to focus on the subheadings that the articles provide. This can also work with sections in fiction, but in nonfiction, it's much easier to locate them. So you're going to take a look at the section, the subheadings, and you're going to try to decide which subheadings are best going to fit with the central idea, which is provided by the title. So I have to look at which of these subheadings is best going to fit in with supporting my title, because again, that's the central idea. In this case, I actually found an example in the introduction section itself. It's not under a subheading, but that's okay. So since I'm doing this digitally, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm just going to be able to right-click on the computer. I should be able to just tap on an iPad, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit copy, go over to my supporting sentence box and hit paste. And I will, of course, need to reformat it so that it fits with the actual size. Since we're talking about spiny lobsters being able to make sounds, now I want to see this next one here. Sounds travel as waves. This is a great example, so I can just copy paste it. Now, unfortunately, that is not necessarily the best sentence. I mean, it is a sentence, but you know. So you'll notice I just copy pasted them in here, but the problem is that at least the very last one is not a complete sentence. And in fact, the second one is not exactly a very good sentence. So I'm going to have to kind of edit them to make sure that they are actually complete sentences, and also that they're more in my own words and not literally just copy pasted from the text, which is plagiarism. So now we're ready for our evidence and explain boxes. For these, you're just going to first head back into where you found your supporting sentences, and you want to look for a complete sentence that really actually proves the point that you're making there. So in the first one, for example, we're talking about how the scientists are tracking the lobsters, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take this sentence right here, copy it, paste it on over. Same thing with the second one. I'm just going to go under that subheading that I was using, look for something that is going to actually support the central idea. In this case of sound traveling as waves, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick that one, copy, paste it, and put that into my second box. For the love of heaven, please resize it and change the font to match. But regardless, I will then go on to the third one and do the exact same process, looking under that subheading for the sentence that is going to best fit with my title, and I'm going to just copy paste that into the third box. Before you call your evidence boxes done, please make sure that you go back and insert sentence starters at the beginning of each of your quotes. These are important because they sort of tie your quote back to your supporting sentence, which then ties it back to your main idea. Without that tag, the sentence starter, it's going to be like very jarring and sort of like you are holding the sentences hostage and forcing them to be in your paper, which is never a good feeling. Also, please make sure that you put quote marks around the sentences that you copied because you are not making those up. Those came from someone else, and quote marks are to help avoid plagiarism. They indicate that you are quoting somebody else. So it would be your sentence starter, comma, quote marks. Now we're ready to start our explain boxes. In each of your 3 explain boxes, you're working to take that evidence that you pulled out and link it back to your central idea. Okay, so that means you're not explaining what the quote means, but you're explaining why that quote is in your paper. How does it relate to what you're trying to talk about? So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your main idea sentence and you're going to turn it upside down. So you can see here, I just copy pasted it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that end part, which is the question turned statement, and I'm going to move that to the front of the sentence. Now I can go ahead and clean it up and start moving the various pieces around. So I can go ahead and close up the space that was created when I first moved it to the front, change the necessary capitalization and punctuation, and add a few extra words at the beginning to help make sure that the fact that I am ending this entire paragraph or essay or whatever is very clear. From there, it's just a matter of making sure that I follow the lines that are on this graphic organizer as I move down from my main idea to supporting sentence 1, evidence 1, explain 1, back up to supporting sentence 2, explain, evidence, back up supporting 3, blah, 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 down to the concluding sentence. And that's basically all you have to do then to take this organizer and put it together into one whole paragraph.